Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this bite-sized session about MMC solutions for social landlords, how we can get social landlords building at scale. I'm John Skivington, the Group Director of LHC. I'm just going to give you a canter through our experience in the next 15 minutes about working with social landlords to deliver MMC and trying really to focus on what we can do more of to build at scale. We're doing a lot of work with MMC. Not all of it is at scale. In fact, not very much of it is at scale. And I think in the post-COVID, post-Grenfell, post-Brexit environment, great opportunity to use MMC to really boost the supply of housing. And I just want to talk to you about our view on that and give you 5 pointers really to what we need to do differently to get ourselves building at scale. There'll be the presentation will be available to everybody after the conference. I won't go around to take questions, but please put your questions through the Q&A and I can answer them later on today or tomorrow. I will end the session on a website reference to our MMC website, so you'll be able to pick up information, all the details on the LHC MMC website. Now, you may know, some of you may know, just get my one second. Some of you may know that we've been around a long time. We've been procuring MMC for 54 years. LHC was founded in 1966 to procure large-scale MMC programs. Now, excuse the fuzziness of this extract from the very first minutes of the LHC first LHC meeting in 1966, and you can see here 13 London boroughs got together way back then and said we want to boost housing, we want to use industrialized programs. What they recognized is they needed to collaborate to coordinate industrialized building programs, and in doing so try to develop harmonized standards, not only for the technical standards, but also for social standards as well. So it sounds very familiar, doesn't it, to where we are today. This was 54 years ago. So the idea of collaborating to aggregate demand and to work with industry to harmonize technical standards, both for the building and for the outcomes, the social outcomes, is not a new one, but it obviously today very differently. Today's environment very different to that 54 years ago. So today, actually, we've for the last 5 or 6 years, since councils have started to become interested in providing social housing again, we've been working with social landlords to develop a pipeline, and over the last few years we've developed a pipeline of around 7,500 MMC homes. As you can see, this is our dashboard. You can see actually the size of the project, the comparison between what we're doing now and what we did 54 years ago, is that very few of the projects today are built at scale. And we've got about 7,500 homes on about 150 projects. So the typical project size is 50 homes. And as you can see from the key here, most sites are below 100 homes. The exception is in Scotland, where there's quite a sophisticated market for panelised timber frame homes. But what we're doing today is not large scale as it was 54 years ago, when was the last time, by the way, when we were building 300,000 homes, and half of that, 148,000 of that 300,000 homes back in 1966 was being built by councils. So to get back to those levels, we really need to do a few things differently to build at scale. 5 things we think we need to do. Firstly, we've got to start looking at MMC as a strategy. When we've got to look at a presumption in favour of adopting an MMC approach. What we find is too often clients will look at MMC, like the idea, but attack it just on a single pilot project only. And what's very clear is that it's very difficult to optimize the benefits of MMC on a single project. So we encourage clients to think about MMC in terms of their strategy. And when we're looking at strategy, it's useful to refer to the MHCLG definitions framework for MMC. And if you don't know that, I'll share a bit here with you. It's also available. Details available on our website, the LHC MMC website, and also you can get it from the .gov website. But MHCLG have identified 7 categories of MMC here, ranging. I won't go through all of these, but ranging from category 1, which are 3D boxes, and in fact 6 and 7 you can see here are not off-site processes at all. They're site-based process improvement. So traditional build, but with some process improvements for modern methods. And when you look at our 7,500 homes, actually, what we find as at August 2020 is only a small percentage of them are 3D boxes and modular. Only 12% of projects going through our LHC frameworks are category 1 3D boxes. Majority is panelized 2D structures, and 31%, about a third, are still traditionally built but using process improvements. So we recommend the clients have a look at the whole spectrum of offsite solutions and trying to develop a strategy around that. So that's the first point. In doing so, we recommend in all of our procurements that clients take a long-term view, but particularly when we're looking at MMC. And this is a chart representing a real-life project with a social landlord working with a modular manufacturer in the southwest. And what this shows us is that if you look at the coloured lines here, we're comparing modular to traditional capital cost only. And what you'll see in the blue line and the red line is that's the cost of a typical house type now. So in year 1, typical cost £1,300 a square metre for traditionally built house. That same house at the moment, if on modular, it would cost £1,600 a square metre. So the yellow line shows us what that difference is on the right hand axis. So on year 1, if you're comparing like for like, same house type, modular cost 3D box, 19% higher than a traditional build. But what happens then by year 2? After a year of work, the client and the manufacturer working together, where the traditional cost starts to rise, the cost of the modular building reduces as we look at design and process improvements. You will then see by year 4.5. There's no difference in price. And by year 10, once we've built in the inflation cost and cost movements over 10 years, we tend to find that the labour costs rise more greatly than on site than they do in the factory. And of course, post Brexit, there's going to be a different dynamic on that. So what we're finding is by year 10, there's a reduction of 10 or 11%. That's on capital cost only. We're now working to look at the whole life cost over 30, 60 years period. So take a long-term view, look at whole life costings, not only of the built item, but also then in terms of maintenance and operations. So that's the second point. What's clear to us, and what's clear I think to everybody now, is that if we're using modern methods of construction, it's very difficult to optimize modern methods of construction if we're using old-fashioned processes. So to get the best out of MMC, we've got to be prepared to change our own processes. If we look at the REBA plan of work, and if you've been listening to all the presentations this morning, there's some alignment with what you've heard this morning. If we look at the REBA plan of work and we take MMC, we overlay MMC to this, what we find in our definition, our MMC definition, is that projects using higher levels of pre-manufactured value need earlier design consideration. So when you look at the MHCLG definitions framework, you'll see a description about pre-manufactured value and what that means. But essentially, it's fairly commonsensical that a 3D box, a 3D module, can contribute up to 80% of the cost of the finished product, whereas that's a category 1 solution. Whereas a category 5 solution, something like a bathroom pod, for example, might only take up 5%. So the pre-manufacture of a bathroom pod be 5%. A whole unit, 3D finished unit, would be 80%. And so clearly you need to get the design freeze settled early on a product that is 80% contribute value to the project than 10%. So that's really important, is to get that design team early, and it sits in with a strategic definition of knowing that you're going to use MMC as your solution early on. And that's aligned then to the procurement development process. So as long as we get the design process early, we've also got to be prepared to change the procurement and delivery process. So again, sorry for the small writing here, but you'll know if you're familiar with the REBA plan of work. We're looking at the procurement route here. The middle band is the procurement route for all types of procuring building projects across the REBA stages. And generally, what happens is we get involved with the client, even on MMC, around stages 3 or 4. When the client's gone through all of the strategic stages with this program, comes to stage 3 and 4 and starts thinking about, now how am I going to procure my MMC? And I have to say, a lot of our projects are still delivered on that basis, and we're doing okay. We're doing okay with that, but we're not realizing the full benefits. The full benefits are only going to be realized when you start thinking about your MMC procurement and delivery early on. And this is echoed in the discussions you heard earlier from CIPS about a procurement lead being involved in every stage of the process. Now, we're at LHC, we've got a framework for manufacturers, we've got a framework for MMC contractors, and that discussion tends to happen around stage 3 and 4 here. So what we've done this year in recognition of the improvements that need to be made is we've introduced a consultancy framework which we called the project integrator. And if you've been listening to CCS earlier, you'd have heard about Project 13. The approach here is that as a client, you engage a single consultant that is with expertise in MMC to help you define your MMC strategy across your whole of your development program, and you work with that consultant to assemble the team, the designers, the contractors, the manufacturers, to deliver your project. So again, those project integrators, we have a framework of 9 specialists throughout the country, 9 specialist consultants throughout the country that can work with you at that early stage to pull it all together. And if you've been listening to CCS about the alliancing framework, what we've set up our MMC frameworks on an alliancing basis. So the project integrators, those project integrators on this framework, the OPI1 framework, can engage with our appointed companies on the manufacturer framework and our contractors on the contracting framework to give you a joined up approach and a seamless approach to give best value. So that's really important. You look at changing your process. CCS talked a lot about collaboration, and we echo that. If you heard CCS talk about the framework alliance contract, all the things that apply to CCS, we do it at LHC. So we form our frameworks under the framework alliance contracts, which allows us to facilitate collaboration with our client group so that we can aggregate demand, and just as importantly, to aggregate our contractors to work with our contractors, our appointed companies, our consultants, and our manufacturers to work together to improve outcomes. And those outcomes are not just financial. Increasingly, less and less so that they're financial. There was a question earlier on in today's discussions about meet most economically advantageous tender, and the industry at post-COVID post-Grenfell is sort of enhancing the meet approach by looking at a range of values as project outcomes. We're working with the Construction Innovation Hub on what's called a values toolkit, and we define then outcomes in these terms, as you can see here, what we call 5 capitals. So it's not just lowest cost financial. It's not just the best product, which is the manufactured element to this. It's the best impact on society, the best natural outcomes, the best outcomes for social value, and the best outcomes for individuals. So it's really important then, looking forward, when we look forward when we're looking at MMC, we believe we can use MMC to deliver the safer, greener homes that we need more productively. And that's been part of this morning's session with the PPC 2020, looking at building better homes, but also looking at a range of outcomes. We want to be able to do all of that, deliver more homes that has a stronger impact on society, that gives more to society than takes away, and that's the natural, social, and human outcomes. And you're going to hear more about that this afternoon in our program this afternoon. So that's it from me. If you want to hear or to learn more and delve more into the things I've been talking to you about, get onto our website here, mmc.lhc.gov.uk. Stay with us this afternoon to hear about the softer side of our delivery in terms of enhancing local communities and all the work we're doing with our collaborators there. If there are any questions for me, I'd be pleased to respond to them later on today or tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.